Hi, everybody. This is Captain Dave, and I'm selling Traveler, 1969 Cheoy Lee Luders 36. This is an excellent boat. It's a project boat right now, good for a person, couple, or even a boat shop that you'd like to have something to keep the guys working in between projects coming in. I want to tell you a little about the boat. First of all, boats from this era are sometimes called classic plastic. That means that the guy that designed this boat, Bill Luders, he was actually came from the era of wooden boat building. And when transitioned into the fiberglass, they overbuilt the boats. They weren't quite sure how much materials to use, so they used a lot. And so the boat is 15,000 pounds displacement, but it's solid and pretty much bulletproof. The other things are it has some of the distinctive design features of a wooden boat, of a traditional wooden boat, with a very lovely bow and shear line. The boat is about 35 and a half feet long, which is helpful at a marina just under that 36-foot mark, and it's a little bit cheaper for dockage fees. The beam is about 10 and a quarter feet. We're going to talk more about the beam at the end of this presentation, when I talk about trailering. The draft is 5 and a quarter. You can see from this slide, the boat is a nicely burdensome hull. There's a lot of good room in this boat, but still it's only 5 feet, just a little over 5 feet, which is very helpful, shallow enough for the intercoastal waterway, which is where I bought the boat and where I sailed the boat, based the boat. I sailed the boat offshore and up the intercoastal waterway, trying to get back to my home in Maine. In this slide too, you're seeing there's a couple jerry jugs on the port side. Those were full of diesel. And up forward, there is a white Merc inflatable. That does not go with the purchase of this boat. That is rolled up, tucked away in deep storage. And tell you what, I have no idea really where it is right now. The boat, but I do know where the boat is. It's on the Chesapeake. It's in a little town called Deltaville. It's hauled out in a professional boatyard on the hard. The mast is out of the boat. It's kind of warm down there. And one of the nice things in the south, in the intercoastal down there, and one of the nice things you have is this opening hatch up forward, plus the companionway open and a nice full-length Bimini. The Bimini, and there is also a Dodger. Both of them are made like a khaki colored tan sombrella, which is very nice for this type of waters. You see so many of the dark blue and medium blue Dodgers and Biminis. This fits in nicely with the boat, and it keeps it nice and cool. Here you see the full-length Bimini top. There's a frame that goes with it, and it just goes right over the boom. I want to call attention to the mast steps. There are these mast steps that are riveted to the mast. They go all the way up to the masthead. I've used them wearing sneakers. I've used them to go up to check the shiv at the masthead. I sail the boat on my own, and I lived on board, and I was always single-handling this boat. And you can use those mast steps. It's great. Just make sure with your bosun's chair you clip yourself to something when you go up aloft. Now, these black and white images are from sailboatdata.com, and I want to talk a little bit about what they're showing. This right here is showing that there's a deck step mast, a nice robust mast step on the top of the cabin. Below it is a teak compression post that goes all the way to the keel. I had the boat inspected about, I believe it was 2021. I've got the inspection report for you if you'd like to take a look. And the fella, he looked at this particularly and said that it was in good shape with no deterioration. That's important. I will mention that there were variations on this boat. One of them was that this has tiller steering in this drawing, but the real boat that's for sale has wheel steering with cables. There is the little stub of the rudder post here, and there is an emergency tiller. So in case the steering, the wheel cable snaps or whatever. It's a good belt and suspender system there. Taking a look of the boat from fore to aft, this is starting up at the chain locker. There are two anchors. There's a Bruce anchor and there's a Fortress, like a Danforth. Both have chain and anchor rode. I have a list of gear that tells the condition and the specifications of the size of the rope, the size of the chain, and the weight of the anchors. You can ask for it. I'm happy to email it to you. But this chain locker is up forward. If we go inside the boat, there's that arrow pointing towards the chain locker. There's a little bulkhead separating it from the V-berth and forward cabin area. This cabin has it has two single bunks, or if you notice in the back of this, in the rear of this photo, there is a little filler which goes in between. It fills up that little trapezoid shape, and it makes for a really nice sized double bunk. Also on the bulkhead at the head of each of these bunks, there is a 12-volt light. So it makes it, there's plenty of light, and then there's ventilation from the hatch above. One thing I want to mention with the boat of this size and this design, everything is human sized. I'm 5'10". If you're over 6 feet and like that, you would still find that the bunks are long enough, the headroom is high enough, the spaces are big at elbow enough, elbow width enough. Before I bought this boat, I looked at a couple boats in the 32-foot range, which, while very nice and traditional boats, everything seemed to be about 3/4 to 7/8 real world size. This boat, everything is real size, and it makes it much more comfortable, especially when you're moving along offshore. Here from aft of the V-berth, there's a head. Let's take a look in there. These are the original fittings. There is a manual head. There's hot and cold pressurized water and a nice little cabinet behind. There's a lot of this teak cabinet work. These Cheoy Lees were built in Hong Kong, and they have, some of them have a lot of nice woodwork. This has just a lot of accent woodwork, but it does have some very nice cabinetry, which is in good shape. Want to call your attention to this. This is a handheld shower. There's two of them on boat. This one, which is in the head compartment, and there's another one aft of the cockpit. I didn't really use this one, the one in the head. I didn't want to get the head damp, but I did for showering off after swimming and that type of thing, or if it was just hot. I used the one up forward. I'm sorry, the one aft that is just after the cockpit, and the water just drained, the fresh water just drained into the cockpit and out through the cockpit. Next, going further aft, there's a settee. This version shows that there were bunks port and starboard, but this particular boat has, again, real world full-size settee. And you can get 6 adults around this comfortably. I've had 6 in there. The wooden table this is folded in half in this photo. It folds out and locks in place. There's also these 2 stainless posts allow the table top to go down to the level of the cushions, making a nice double bunk. When I first bought the boat, I slept in all the bunks just to see what they were like and where I wanted to sleep. And this is a great double bunk. It's very comfortable. The only thing is, if you have like 2 couples on board or like that, you do have to fold everything up in the morning to get everything out of the way and like that. But it's good. That's a really convenient double bunk. Going under the boat for a minute, down below to the keel, we have the boat, as I mentioned, displaces 15,000 pounds. A third of that is in ballast that's bolted onto the bottom. If we go back to the deck view, we're looking at the cockpit sole here. There's 80 gallons of fresh water in an integral tank that's underneath that cockpit sole. Further aft, there is a 40-gallon steel tank that is underneath the cockpit sole. Did I say the cabin sole and the cockpit sole? And right there, you also see that this is tiller steering. But that 40-gallon tank is gravity fed and for the diesel. back on board, back in the cockpit now. And here you can see with the Bimini, boy, you have a nice, really good visibility all around you. The boat is very simple. I like that about it. And one of the things that's simple is there's a depth sounder and a Speedo, and they're just I think they're Horizon, but they're right there and big screens, easy to see from the wheel. I actually used a handheld GPS with a map cartridge for navigation, as well as the chart kit for the intercoastal waterway and surrounding waters. And that worked out fine. When I was looking at boats, one fellow actually had a laptop and he used the chart kit that was on the digital chart kit, and he used a USB GPS receiver, which was great. That really worked out well for him. And he loved it. He thought he could move it anywhere around the boat. It was a nice big screen. Whatever. The handheld GPS does not go with the boat as well. There it is again. That's that white Merc inflatable up there that is somewhere, I don't know where. The red arrow is showing the stainless steel frame that goes for the Dodger. This is folded down right at the moment and out of the way. Back into the cabin, let's take a look here. We were at the settee, and now let's go to the galley. There is a Seaward Princess stove with an oven. It's gimbaled, fully gimbaled. It's, again, stainless steel. It's LPG. It is little or never used. I actually removed the LPG gas tanks. They were just on deck aft, and I did not like the idea of having them there. And I just removed them, and I used a different arrangement. And the plumbing, the tubing, everything is still there for it. The inspector said, he suggested you probably would want to have a technician reinstall the system, and also to check for leaks and install a gas sniffer, which is a great idea. But there it is. There's the stove. And then aft, this is the Perkins 40108 diesel. This lives in this little compartment. There's two doors that close, and a ladder, the companionway ladder, latches onto those doors, and it goes up. That's access to the cockpit. The 4108 has been a big question mark. It smokes black smoke, and it does not get up to full RPMs. I have an information PDF, which I'm happy to send you if you're interested in the boat. The details of things that I have done. For example, when I first bought the boat, I removed all of the injectors and sent them away to be professionally rebuilt. I thought maybe they were leaking, and that was what was causing the black smoke. The old owner and we took out that steel tank, that diesel tank, totally drained it, totally cleaned it, and then reinstalled it, and had a professional marine technician replumb the system, copper tubing, put in a new rake core. I put in a new lift pump. There were some odds and ends that I did, but I could never resolve that problem of the low RPMs. Again, things like that, I understand how the expense of engine work and like that. And so what I'm saying, that the boat, I'm happy to take that into consideration when someone is making an offer on the boat. Myself, I would probably choose to replace the Perkins with a new Beta engine, which is smaller, lighter. This is a 40 horsepower, and I don't know if you really need all 40 horses. The boat sails beautifully. The boat with this cutaway forefoot and wheel steering, it actually handles like a dinghy. It's amazing for a boat of this tonnage, 15,000 pounds. It really does handle nicely in a marina and in tight quarters. Beautiful, beautiful, well-balanced handling boat. Beta and some of the other engines actually have motor mounts that match the Perkins 4108. So it's sort of like unbolt the Perkins, bolt in the other one right on the same motor mounts. And these engines, these Perkins, Their parts are available for them, no problem. And also that core would probably be valuable if you wanted to repower the boat and to sell the core. So it is a question mark. Across from the stove, there is a icebox with a refrigeration plate. This I only used it as an icebox, and you can see this is opened up, and the top has a thick layer of foam. When you fold it down, it's nice and flat. I use that as a chart table, and that was the one place for a chart table on this boat, and it worked nicely. Worked very well. The boat is hauled out in a professional yard, as I mentioned. The mast is out of the boat, it's on blocks. Here you can see the mast steps. There's also the ProFurl furling rig for the big Genoa. The Genoa is different than what the original sail plan called for. It's an upgrade from a previous owner. Here we see, again from sailboatdata.com, this is a sort of a equal split between the mainsail and the fore triangle in the original drawing. But now both of them are 300 square feet. Right now, that Genoa, it comes back to that middle port light right there. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what the percentage of it is, and that's what's hanked onto that furling rig. And boy, a nice, powerful sail. It sails well. In fact, some of the times when I did let the motor click over and motor sail, I just motor sailed along the intercoastal waterway and really was just using the big jib. It was very handy, again, especially for single handling. Here's a picture from probably the original brochure. This shows that nice shear line that I was talking about of this boat. And also, boy, I wish I had that jib. Look at that nice high cut foot. And boy, the wonderful visibility on that. The boat does not include that. The boat does include the mainsail, the Genoa, and a spinnaker. It's got a green and yellow spinnaker. I've never used a spinnaker. It has the pole and the halyard for it. One thing I would call attention to in this photo is single spreader rig. Nice and simple. Everything is simplicity itself with this boat. Okay, the boat is for sale. If you want to contact me, I created a listing on sailboatlistings.com. Remember that number right there, 850-84. I'll put that down in the chat below. This is what, if you go to that listing, this is what it will look like. You'll see this. And there's also a price of $12,500 on the boat. However, I'm a teacher, and I'm teaching overseas. I'm actually in Germany. And the boat was my home base in the summers when I would return back to the States. But with COVID and like that, I haven't been back to the States in a couple of years now. And there were restrictions between Europe and the US about travel. And so right now I've really decided, I think, well, I will sell the boat, and because I enjoy staying here in the summer since I started staying. I'm sorry, there are no trades. I'm not able to, I'm not in a position for making any kind of trades right now, but any offers that are reasonable, I would consider them. And there. This on the sailboatlistings.com, you would see this little list. This has some of the, this has all of the gear. I've also got a gear list which has more specifications and age, condition, that kind of thing. I'm happy to send it to you. If you contact me, and you can contact me to my home email address right here through that little button on sailboatlistings.com. And remember about the beam, about the 10-foot beam. I want to mention that. One of the things I do is I write for boating magazines. I write for the Cruising World. And I use that little settee as my home office on board. And boy, did it work well. Nice with that and a coffee maker, you're all set. I wrote an article for Cruising World, and you can Google it. If you just Google Cruising World tips for trucking a boat, and you'll get to the article. This is a photo that was from that article. My contract for teaching in Germany came up rather quickly, and I had to do something with the boat. It was more expensive to keep the boat in South Carolina than Virginia, and so I just trucked it up there to haul it out in a boat, in a professional boatyard where it is now. This shows you, look at that sheer, look at that hull. It's really lovely right there. It's a fiberglass boat with the lines of a traditional wooden boat. Very nice. You can Google that article. It tells two things. It tells the nuts and bolts of how you get a boat ready to go for trucking it. Depends where you are listening from or viewing from. The boat is about, in Deltaville, it's approximately 2.5 hours from Annapolis or DC, maybe 2 hours from Norfolk, Virginia. And it is not out of the question to truck the boat somewhere if you have a shop or like that you would like to bring it. And I go into the details about that in that article. Look it up. Okay, so this is how to contact me through sailboatlistings.com. Again, those reasonable offers are always encouraged. And I'd like to thank you for watching, and please write me any questions that you might have about this boat. Thank you very much. Bye.